high, shield strong. From distant lands we gather, hearts of fire all along. Oh, big Nick, cause we follow through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under moonlight. Warriors of the ancient sea, songs of glory dark and bold. In the night, our spirits free, legends born, tales unfold. Oh, big because we follow through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under moonlight. From horizons wild we roam, with thunder in our soul. Every battle brings us home to the stories ages told. Oh, big Nick, cause we follow through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under.
Hey, folks! As it turns out, the Trial I Started cover have today off. So what I'm going to do is start this one. If this one is interesting, I'm going to continue with this and then do video updates on the other. So welcome to Florida versus Alicia Andrews. It is the Julio Foolio murder trial. Now, what is this all about? Well, this is what it's all about. Trial begins for woman accused of tracking Florida rapper Julio Foolio before his murder. This is from News Channel 8. And it seems like they are doing the Adelson thing here. One at the time. Starting with Alicia Andrews. She is the first of 5 people charged in the murder of Jacksonville rapper Julio Foolio in Hillsborough County, Florida. Jury selection began Monday. It was done yesterday. And Young Thug 2.0, well, maybe. Good morning, Jenny. Good morning, DSN. Good morning, folks. Good morning, folks. Good morning. And where were I? Yeah. She's accused of working with Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance Jr., Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy to track Julio Foolio to multiple locations before the group ambushed and ended him at a Tampa Holiday Inn parking lot. 3 other people were also injured, which happened summer of 2024. Police believe the suspects were members of rival gangs. Okay, we have a gang trial. Let's hope that they are not inspired by Atlanta, by Fulton County prosecutions. Let's hope this is slightly different. Let's see here. his real name, Julio Foolio, real name Charles Jones, had been in the city celebrating his 26th birthday. Investigators said Jones posted his location online multiple times before the shooting. The 5 suspects are believed to have followed him from place to place before opening fire on his car at the Holiday Inn. Death penalty specialist Scott Harmon and assistant state attorneys Michelle Doherty and Anna Ismer are prosecuting the case. I will check in with Steve Gosney to see what are his so let's see. Maybe we can have Steve on. Steve Gosney, who you have seen before on my channel, is a death penalty certified appellate attorney. So he was a defense attorney up until a year ago when something happened which wasn't his doing, and now he works in civil instead. Let's continue. If convicted, Andrews faces life in prison, according to the state's attorney's office. Well, she is, if I recall correctly, I think, hold on while I check here. The charges are first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. So those are the charges. So that is what we are waiting for. We are waiting for court to show up. We are waiting for opening statements, which are announced, which was announced by the court yesterday. Hello, Karen. Hello, Gigi. Hello, Mavka. Dave. Yeah, this might be Young Thug 2.0. But there's no gang charges, as I can see. But let me quickly check. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. They are not going for the death penalty. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that's about it, what I can find at the very moment. That's what I can find. Yeah, so good morning. Good morning, everybody. So again, this is a case I am jumping in head first. I have no idea how long this trial is set to be. I don't know much about the background. And so, more or less, we are starting out just as we did in the in the Young Thug Rico trial, which ended up with me covering everything for 2 years. Mavka says, I believe the 4 men have gang enhancement, which is why it's DP. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, I would assume so. If those are the active shooters, then the enhancement would get the prosecution to the death penalty. Now, as it seems, Alicia Andrews is charged as an active participant, as in she might not have fired, but she was there and aiding in this crime. What? Oh, I love it when people show up with information for me. Thank you. Scheduled to the end of the month. Okay, so not that long. End of the month is 8 days, 8 trial days. Yeah. So hopefully we will see a clean trial and with a good prosecution. Now, some of these, I mean, had this been prosecuted by the Miami-Dade, I would have expected tomfuckery. But this is not prosecuted in Miami-Dade. It happened in Tampa, and they are from Jacksonville. Hey, Blue. Saying, I'm glad you're covering this. This is allegedly an ongoing beef between crews in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I went to Florida a few weeks ago. I spent a week in Miami. So, which only means I've seen Miami, not the rest of Florida. Okay, sound is on. Judge is here. Hey, thank you, Dave, sending me a Fox News. Okay, it's a 2-minute segment, so let's check that out.
Now at 6, the trial for the first of 5 suspects in the Julio Foolio murder trial in Tampa, now underway today. Alicia Andrews is accused of helping stalk and track the rapper last year in what authorities called an ambush-style shooting. Jury selection in her case began this morning, and Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer has been covering this for us. Joins us now live in our newsroom. Hi there, Aaron. I know you sat down with Andrews' attorneys prior to the trial here. What did they tell you?
Mark, they say Andrews has been honest with investigators all along. She admits she was with the group of suspects, but her attorneys say she had no part in the murder and was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Today, we're going to be picking a jury in a criminal case.
Alicia Andrews is the first of 5 suspects to go to trial who are all charged in connection with the murder of Charles Jones, a Jacksonville rapper known as Julio Foolio.
Charles Jones was shot and killed while he was seated in his car.
The judge briefed potential jurors on the basic facts of the case. Jones was in Tampa to celebrate his birthday last year. Security video shows a group of shooters opening fire on Jones's car outside a hotel near USF. Rashad Murphy, Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, and Andrews are accused of making the trip from Jacksonville to Tampa to kill Jones in what investigators described as an ongoing gang war.
That perception is not reality.
Andrews' attorneys recently sat down with Fox 13 to explain why they believe she's innocent.
She was here for a trip with her boyfriend. That's it and that's all, and found herself caught up in a mix of stuff that she was unaware about completely.
That's what she told detectives who didn't believe her. They say she and her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, acted as lookouts the night of the murder. The defense says Andrews had no idea what was about to happen.
Right, this is a case where the state tries to put her in a box and say that she is the girlfriend of one of the individuals involved and that she would do anything that this guy tells her to do because she's so in love with him.
They just leap to the conclusion, since he was there, she must know. And, you know, it's just a faulty kind of logic.
All 5 suspects are charged with first-degree murder, but Andrews is the only one not facing the death penalty. Her lawyers say she's been honest from day one, and they think jurors will believe her.
So she has no problem telling them everything that she knows, and she did, and believing that that truth will, you know, proverbially set her free.
Okay.
And the judge told jurors this trial could last up to 2 weeks, Mark.
All right, Aaron Mesmer watching it closely for us. Aaron.
Okay. Interesting. That is a proper defense. Now, will it work? Well, I suspect we will hear different things from the prosecution and from the defense. I suspect we will see a lot of what the guys did and less of what she actually did. So this will be actually interesting. Is she an actual innocent bystander who was just caught up with this, or had she a more active role? Let's see here. There's no sound here. Let's see if the court TV has sound. No, they don't. Okay, so sound is not on either. So we are waiting for trial to begin. Hey, John Gary. Nice to hear a legitimate defense argument for a change, whether it is true or not. Yeah, I agree. I agree. This will be really interesting to see how valid all of this is. Now, as you can see, there are a slight change in my stream. That is because I am over at Rumble Studios, and which means, well, I'm in the corner. I have still not learned how to change.
And are you self-employed?
Oh, here we go.
Mine is just automotive technician, I work on a commission base, so if I don't physically turn wrenches, I don't get paid.
Okay, and remind me the name of your employer.
On my check, it's called Pit Stop,
Right,
but it's a chain called Express Oil Change and Tire Engineers.
okay. And they will not compensate you?
No, they will not.
Okay, all right. And you've indicated that your wife does work, but that her pay will not, during this time period, would not cover all of your other bills, correct?
Correct. Her job is pretty much for the insurance part of it.
Okay, so we have jury
And do you have
issues.
children?
I have
One child. Okay, how old's the child?
12 years old.
Okay. Okay, state any questions?
No questions, Judge.
Mr. McClymonds, any questions?
No, Judge.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Just go back into the jury room for me, please.
Yeah, you Dave can't interrupt,
Okay. So is there any objection to
and you can't
excusing
close
him
down
from
my
the cause
stream
at this time?
because I'm over at Rumble.
Judge, there's no objection from the state.
I don't have an objection. I just hope that
Right.
we're not going to start
Me
losing
too.
others.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. So,
Is there a mic on?
who's they? Oh, I gotta turn on the CCTV, sorry. You mean the audience can't hear me? They're fine. Okay. Okay. All right, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and excuse Mr. Jimenez at this time. So we still have one alternate left.
And Judge, there is one other thing. Some of the witnesses that are going to be testifying, which includes victims and eyewitnesses to the case, they do have concern about their image being broadcast, concerns for their safety, and would ask that their face not be shown while
Well, you
they're
need to tell me who they are when they're about ready to testify. Okay?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right. Let's bring Mr. Jimenez in.
Hey, Judge, we missed one juror, but we're running into traffic. We need 15 more minutes.
That's fine.
Judge, I'm also hearing it was Fox 13 this morning when they were reporting about opening statements. I think they reran an interview with Mr. Malcolm and Mr. McClymonds talking about the evidence.
Yes, Jan, Sarah Boone would be furious. Why is she getting makeup and Sarah Boone didn't?
I just have concerns that the jurors overheard any of it, and I just would inquire. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Jimenez, I have spoken with both the state and the defense, and they have agreed to go ahead and excuse you at this point in time due to financial hardship.
No, thank you.
Okay? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yep, good luck, safe travels. ODD. And who is it we're waiting on?
Mr. Kagawa.
Okay. But you've heard from him and he's on his way.
Yes, ma'am.
Traffic
About
is-
5 minutes
yeah.
ago, he said he was 20 minutes away, so it should be.
Yeah.
Judge, can I go to the restroom really quickly? Since we're-
Well, immediately this one is much more interesting.
Oh, I'm gonna go that way. Yeah, the door's there. Okay. But thank you.
MJ, good morning. No Dustin Duran today? No. Apparently, because of scheduling, they only had for half a day today, and then the next witness could only get there tomorrow. So they are pushing everything over to tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stream this one today, and if this one is more interesting, which it seems to be, I will live stream this trial, and then I will do video updates on what's going on in the Dustin Duran trial. Yeah, she is really, really well dressed. The neck tattoo kind of gives it away. So your sound is up, everything is up. Yeah. Let me know if you need better sound, then I will have the sound enhancer on. And if you want to support this channel monetarily, go to the Feed the Swede thing there in the bottom right corner. And via PayPal, you can send me some coffee money. Or you can go to the description below where you have the alternatives. Like buy me a coffee and stuff like that. Starfish and coffee. Interesting to see this from a female accused and how it's perceived. Yeah. statistically, murder trials, female defendants have better statistics of getting acquitted overall. But then also it depends on the facts of the case. Hi, Roxanne. Yeah. If you don't like PayPal for different reasons, I have also the Buy Nick a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com, where you also can support this channel. But as I always say, always appreciated, never necessary. No, she is not out on bond. Everybody in this is held without bond. So I assume her family or her attorneys brings her the clothes every morning when she is going to trial.
It's triple.
Two.
I need 2 triple A's.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we are waiting for everything to start. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Gwendolyn. Good to have you here. Oh, they were done with the jury selection yesterday, but it appears that one of the jurors this morning had issues because their workplace did not cover the bills.
While we're waiting, I just want to make sure we're clear regarding my ruling regarding the allegations of domestic violence as a potential duress defense. I indicated yesterday that defense could, if they choose, talk about that with the understanding that evidence only comes in if the defendant testifies. There had been a previous motion for order in limine regarding prior incidents of domestic violence between the defendant and Isaiah Chance, and motion to strike defense witnesses Jewel Jordan and Jakayla Robinson. That motion had been granted without prejudice to revisit if that testimony became admissible. So that ruling stays in effect. So if Ms. Andrews decides to testify, and if the state cross-examines her, and it appears that the state is challenging whether or not these allegations of domestic violence even occurred, and then that would open the door potentially to the defense being able to call these other witnesses to support the challenged or the credibility of Ms. Andrews' testimony that she was abused by Isaiah Chance. Okay, but at this point, it's an inadmissible unless the door is opened, and then we'll discuss it before those witnesses could testify. Okay.
Judge, just a brief point on that. So Joelle Jones was listed by the state as well. So I guess the motion that
is I think the motion was limited specifically to discussions that those witnesses had or correspondence with Isaiah Chance regarding the domestic violence allegations, correct?
That is correct.
That's what it says. So sure, and so it's limited to that as far as what you cannot get into in opening statements.
Okay.
But if there's other relevant evidence that she's going to testify to, then of course it's fair game.
All right.
There just has to be a good faith basis for you to believe whatever the evidence is, and that's going to come into evidence, be admitted.
Understood.
Judge, the only thing I wanted to bring up to the court's attention was the state filed an in limine motion specifically directed at defendant's self-serving hearsay statements. So If she's not going to testify and counsel doesn't have a good faith basis to believe that, then these other witnesses' statements about what she told them would not be proper opening statements.
Well, again, and we discussed this yesterday, and it's the defense call. So the case law is clear that duress is a defense to the state of mind necessary for premeditated intent to kill. And as we've discussed numerous times, however, that defense only comes in if Ms. Andrews testifies. So defense can make the decision whether or not they want to open that door on opening statements or not.
Yeah, this is welcome to how trials work. The prosecution have this. Everything you say can and will be used against you, which means they can selectively choose what they want to present to the jury. There's the normal rule of completeness does not apply because according to case law, it is self-serving for the defense to bring out the complete statements or other things without their client taking the stand. Now, I honestly, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. But that usually comes into place when the person says, I had nothing to do with it. In this case, it is a separate allegation, part of the defense. Then, yes, I would agree that is self-serving, and then it has to come from her own mouth. But usually, I'm not a fan. I do believe that the rule of completeness should mandate the prosecution. If they say, hey, look at what he said in this phone call. Yeah, but the phone call he made 5 minutes earlier, what did he say then? You have to put things into context. Okay, let's continue.
All right, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Oh.
Oh, we do? Okay, well then we can get going. All right.
I'll just
All right,
fetch
ready to
myself
go?
something to drink. I'll be right back.
You got a yes? Radio?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, all right, just making sure before I bring everybody in.
Judge, I just want to check the audio on
Sure.
these videos and make sure it's where it's at. Is there a remote to the TV audio? Right here. Oh, okay.
All right, I'll be right back while you do that.
Okay.
I'm back. Hello, Marlene. Good to have you here. Good afternoon. Yeah, it's afternoon where I am, by the way. Okay, let's skip ahead a bit. Let the judge come back.
I apologize. The issue, and the defense also wanted just to look at the PowerPoint.
Sure.
I apologize.
No worries.
And Judge, also, if we could just ask the media to not focus in on any of our bad times.
Okay,
I don't know if
yes.
that's happening, I just want to make sure.
Okay, yes, make sure the media does not focus in on the laptops of any counsel, either state or defense. As far as
Before I forget, I can't bring these up since I am on Rumble Studios. Rocky Rockwell, member for 12 months, saying happy 1 year. Hope you have a good day, Nick. I'm having a good day. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a supporter for a full year. And thank you to Dave for being a member for 15 months. Says here to gang violence trials. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much.
what they're looking at or reviewing.
You'd have to exit the.
All right, and we are fully live again. Yeah, this is a commentary channel, folks, which means I will pause from time to time, unless there's a break in the proceedings, and talk to you about what we just saw, my input about, okay, what's going on? Why did they say that? Why did they do that? What did the judge do? Stuff like that. With a decent amount of snark, if I feel it's available. And so yeah, I hope that we can spend a good time, as good as we can, because in the bottom of this is a man is dead who should not be dead. Hi, Wim. Yeah, the defendant is very cute, and what it with looks like that, there are so many choices, so many choices, and she chose to be with a gangbanger, alleged gangbanger. She could have found herself successful man or woman, whatever rocks her boat. Hey, Rhonda Hall being a member for 4 months, saying hopefully no cluster Fs, no fusterclucks. We can always hope, but you know, there's no guarantee, especially on this channel, because I have a tendency to tune in to trials that, for all kinds of reasons, becomes a clusterfuck. All right.
All right, we ready?
And let's see here. There is reports that she turned down a plea deal in August, but that is I only see it at Reddit. There's been some report from I'm not a lawyer, but and stuff like that. I see it on TikTok, Facebook. Okay, Mavka says that the clip that was posted everywhere apparently wasn't correct. Okay, good to know. Thank you for the information, Mavka. All right, it is now 9:30 in Florida, so how about it, Judge? Get a move on. Okay, so her attorneys were on the I'm not a lawyer, and they said she was never offered a plea deal. Okay. Well, while we are waiting, I have decided next September I will go back to the United States. This time I'm going to the Northeast, or East and Northeast. I'm actually planning to go fly into Boston. And then, of course, as you might not be surprised to hear, I want to visit Canton and see what it's all about. Maybe meet up with some people in Canton, and maybe bring a rubber duck. Other than that, I plan to then drive north up to Maine, and then west, and then down south again, and end up in Boston again.
Okay, you guys ready to go? Let's bring the jury.
All right. Bring in the jury. Bring in. Bring the opening statement so we can get what they really claim, both from the prosecution and from the defense.
All rise.
So this is a jury of 12, and since one was let go because of financial hardships, there are 12 jurors and only one alternate. Mainly because it's a decent short trial, 2 weeks, up to 2 week trial. But then again,
everyone, have a seat. Welcome back, members of the jury. Just a couple of things before we get going. It is my understanding there were media reports about this case in the news the past 24 hours. So did any of you watch, read, listen to any news accounts related to this case? Did any of you do any independent research or investigation on your own about the case? Did you talk to anybody about the case? Okay, very good. All right, and just for scheduling purposes, I know we've got a juror that needs to be in a wedding or a practice for a wedding at 2 o'clock on Friday, so we will break no later than noon on Friday. Just so you all know, the rest of the jury knows, Friday afternoon you'll have free. All right? Okay, with that, State, do you wish to make an opening statement?
We do, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. You may proceed.
May it please the court?
Yep.
Counsel?
I will do audio enhancing here.
He didn't know, because there was no way he could know that his time here was limited, very limited, that he was in fact breathing his last breaths here on earth. living the last moments of his just barely 27 years of life here on this planet. He didn't know, as he was out with friends celebrating his birthday, that he was being watched, that he was being followed. He was being stalked. Stalked and observed while he was celebrating. Stalked and observed by a group of killers, a group of conspirators who were now executing a very premeditated plot that had been hatched and birthed days before. A plot that had been hatched between them with every single one of their collective evil intentions directed into one common purpose, one common goal: the premeditated murder of Charles Jones. This group's collective hatred and animosity, which drove the conspiracy that existed between them, this evil and despicably wicked conspiracy. He didn't know that now all of their planning, all of their surveillance, all of their advanced coordination was now coming to fruition. Coming into fruition in such a precise way that he only saw his killers for mere seconds as they rapidly closed in on him, dressed from head to toe in all black, like ninjas coming out of the dark. Disguises that included balaclavas and ski masks. Disguises that these conspirators had decided well before this moment that they were going to wear, to use to hide their identities from the ever-present and ubiquitous cameras that permeate our culture. As Charles Jones sat there in the front passenger seat of his Dodge Charger, their plan came perfectly together. He was now the perfect target, caught completely, entirely off guard, completely blindsided. As these gunmen appeared, seemingly, you will see in this evidence, out of nowhere. A perfectly planned ambush, and there's no other way to say it. The evidence will show you clearly this was an ambush, a designed ambush, one that they had carefully planned and now were orchestrating. Unable to run, unable to dive or even duck, basically caged in the front seat of his car. He was basically a sitting duck. And these killers, they didn't hesitate, not for 1 second and not for one moment. They moved rapidly into their pre-planned positions, into their firing locations. And then they immediately unleashed a hellish onslaught, affecting a precisely coordinated violence of action, sending a barrage, a wall of hot lead, crashing into the only barriers between Charles Jones living and Charles Jones dying. Those barriers, the automotive glass, the sheet metal of the front of his Dodge Charger, which were absolutely no match for the high-powered 5.56 and 300 blackout caliber rifle rounds, which were now traveling at him, directed at him at thousands of feet per second, each one of them carrying over 1,200 foot-pounds of energy, directed specifically at Charles Jones. A Glock 9mm handgun was being utilized by one of these conspirators, a handgun that wasn't just a semi-automatic handgun. It had been converted to a fully automatic hand cannon. And now it was running wide open, dumping all 30 rounds of its magazine through the front end and the windshield of that Dodge Charger. All of that gunfire filling the dark early morning hours with booming concussions and bright flashing muzzle flashes as these high-pressured and high-powered rounds flooded the atmosphere in front of that Dodge Charger. Charles Jones. You've heard his name in the indictment. That's his face.
All right, for sensitive viewers, this might be bad.
Just a few seconds of the mountain of evidence that you will see in this case of what happened that night. Evidence that will show you clearly that these co-conspirators hatched this murderous plot not minutes, not hours, but days before this, formulating in their hearts and minds this agreed upon collective and confederated plan with one common agreed upon goal: death, violence, and murder. A conspiracy motivated and hatched days before, hundreds of miles away from Tampa. A conspiracy that would span through those days and over 500 miles of travel. Reservations were made, uniforms, disguises obtained and selected. Gear was obtained, weapons selected, weapons loaded, and weapons modified and made ready. Transportation was obtained, vehicles with specific purposes, and a plot that required advanced planning and logistics to include housing, communications, and transport would materialize and become reality. A criminal, murderous operation. These co-conspirators leaving their homes in the northeast corner of this state, traveling here, traveling to their target. Conspiring to murder Charles Jones, not in his home, not in Jacksonville, not on his home territory, not at his residence, but here in Tampa, while he was on a birthday trip, while his guard was down. And you will see in this evidence the clock-like precision of these co-conspirators, how they worked together as a team in this team effort. Principles. This is a law that you heard a little bit about. You'll be instructed on it at the end of this case after the evidence is given to you by the Honorable Judge Sisko. She will instruct you on the law of principles as well as the law on murder and all the other laws that you will need to render your verdict in this case. The law of principles, if a defendant helps another person to commit or attempt to commit a crime, that defendant is a principal and must be treated as if they had done all the things that the other person or persons did, if we prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, that they first intended that the crime occur and did some act or said something, anything, that was intended to and that did incite their co-defendants to commit this murder, cause them to, simply encourage them to, assist them or advise other persons to actually commit that crime. Now, incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise the other person to actually commit or commit the crime. For first-degree premeditated murder, we must prove that this defendant intended that Charles Jones be killed. It is not necessary for the principal to know every detail of how a first-degree murder will be committed as long as they intend that it occur. And they did some act or said something that was intended to help or did help the murder to occur. But almost more importantly, the principal, the defendant, does not have to be present when the crime is committed or attempted to be committed. But in this case, folks, you will hear that this defendant, Alicia Andrews, was right there, driving right next to that Dodge Charger in the seconds before this murder happened.
Driving or passing?
If the defendant is found by you to be a principal, then she is legally responsible and accountable for everything that her co-conspirators, her co-defendants did. Alicia Andrews, these are her co-conspirators. I don't know if this laser is going to work, if you can see. In the upper left-hand corner, that's Rashad Murphy. Lower left, Davion Murphy. Sean Gaithright is in the upper right. And in the lower right is her boyfriend at the time, Isaiah Chance. These were the 5 conspirators. This was the assault team that took out Charles Jones, that took his life, that snatched it from him in the early morning hours of June 23rd. Isaiah Chance, Sean Gaithright, Rashad Murphy, Davion Murphy. To understand the murderous intent that existed amongst them, and to understand this conspiracy that dwelled in all of their minds and hearts, we have to go back and look at the lives and associations of Charles Jones and these defendants. What did Charles Jones do to these defendants that was so bad that would cause them to confederate, to conspire, engage in this coordinated, planned attack? Charles Jones belonged to and was affiliated with a group known as 6 Block. He was a member of that organization. It exists in Jacksonville. It's known as 6 Block, and it is a street gang. It consists of several members. 2 other gangs in Jacksonville, ATK and 1200, were affiliated gangs. They despise 6 Block. They detest them. They abhor them. And the level of hate between these groups is a mutual hatred. The evidence will show that these gangs have been at war for several years. And when I say war, the evidence will show you this is a war going on in the streets of Jacksonville. The hatred and the dripping animosity of these defendants towards Charles Jones, it ran deep. and the evidence will show you that. In fact, you will hear that in October of 2023, just 9 months before this, before the murder of Charles Jones, he had left his residence in Jacksonville in that same black Charger about 6 o'clock in the morning. He came to a stop sign in his neighborhood, just a few blocks from his house, when a shooter with a high-powered rifle opened fire on his car, striking his car several times and striking him in his lower leg, spraying bullets all over that neighborhood. Mr. Jones at that time was able to drive himself to a local hospital, receive treatment, and be released. That bullet, or fragment of bullet, remained in his leg until it was removed by the medical examiner who conducted the autopsy on his body here in Tampa after his murder. Earlier that same morning, a member of ATK, a man by the name of Tilly, was shot and killed at a high school football game. This shooting of Charles Jones was clearly retaliation, but Charles Jones was not the shooter of Tilly. But that didn't matter. So why was he targeted? You won't hear any evidence to suggest that he had anything to do with that shooting. He was affiliated with 6 Block. And you're going to hear in the evidence that he wasn't just a member of 6 Block, he was a notorious member of 6 Block. Probably the most well-known member of that gang. In fact, he was the public face of 6 Block. The spokesperson, basically. He posted on social media, but most notoriously and notably, he wasn't just a spokesperson for 6 Block, he was a certified celebrity. Charles Jones had millions of followers on social media, if not tens of millions of followers, because he engaged in an activity that you heard a little bit about yesterday from one of your fellow jurors, and he was spot on. That's exactly what the evidence is going to show you in this case. This long-standing pattern of what is called drill rap. And it is an activity that Charles Jones embraced and that he engaged in under the name Julio Foolio, which was in fact his street name, Foolio. Julio Foolio. In this type of rap music, it's not just rap, it's disrespect. It's making fun of and disparaging not only ATK and 1200, the opposing gangs, but disparaging their members by name. Disparaging, and probably most incendiary you will find in the evidence, bragging about the death or deaths of other of ATK 1200 members who have been murdered.
I agree with my chat. Okay, we have now been going on for a few minutes. Where's Alicia in this? I understand. Yeah, that. But I told you that this at the beginning of this stream. They will talk a lot about what the main perpetrators did, and then they will try to connect her to that. Well, it will be interesting.
As I said earlier, make no doubt about it, this is a gang war. Mr. Jones, you will see in the evidence, not only produced this music, he produced music videos. Videos where he would travel to the gravesides of these individuals, or a graveside that was used in lieu of their graveside, and do things during the video like lay on their graves and sing around their graves and use sarcastic lyrics in his songs, pour champagne on their graves, rubbing it in the faces of ATK and 1200. And ATK and 1200 were no better. They did the same thing. You're going to see videos from members of that gang. One young man in particular, Kenyatta Bullard, known on the streets as Young and Ace, who produced not only songs about 6 Block members who had been murdered, in the days after the murder of Charles Jones, he produced a song just within almost 48 hours and put it up, talking about the murder of Charles Jones, the specific facts of it. This created in those 5 individuals, in their minds and in their hearts, a vendetta. This was revenge. Because he ridiculed them, and he ridiculed their gang, which was their family. He ridiculed their friends, which were their family members. They were close, deep running bonds of loyalty in this organization. Because they have each other and they defend each other. They defend not only each other, but they defend each other's honors. And they defend their affiliations.
Just for the record, if they are going to play a lot of rap songs, my streams will be copyright claimed. Now, that happened a bunch of times in the YSL trial, but it got fixed because I can edit out the sound of it or the pieces of the segment, but I can't do that while I am live. I will try to mute it, but it's hard to it's rough, let's just say that.
This is the murder scene. Let me see if this will work. Home to Sweets, McKinley, Fowler, USF is directly across the street. The USF campus lays literally feet away from this hotel complex. Over here you can see it's a Holiday Inn. This is the portico right here where the shooting happens. What you will see in this evidence is that these shooters arrive here and they come in and they go around the north side of that complex as Mr. Jones is sitting here at the portico with 2 other cars full of his friends and partygoers, people celebrating. His girlfriend was in the other car. He was a passenger. His friend Xavier Edwards was driving. His longtime friend Gino Norris was in the back seat. They pull in. The shooters come in this way. They go around. They come down here. And they're parked in this area here. And then they walk on foot and they come around here, surprising Mr. Jones. You saw Mr. Jones' car try to evade the shooting and go this direction. He goes straight up here. There is no road here, but they make a road in their desperate efforts to get away. They go right past this dumpster, and the Charger ends up here. This is Mr. Jones arriving. He's been out celebrating, you will find in the evidence.
And a lot of smoke came out of that car.
That is Mr. Jones with that open passenger door. The vapor you're seeing is coming out of the hotel.
Okay.
That's some type of a dryer vent. Mr. Jones in the red stocking cap pulling up his shorts. He walks in the hotel. As you can see on the timestamp, which is slightly off by a few minutes, this is about 4:30 in the morning. They had been out through the night. They had gone to a couple of clubs. Mr. Jones appeared at one club and performed, and then he went to an after party at another club. He had attempted to make a reservation here, but because they appeared so late, it had been given away. You'll see him come back and get into his car. Video slightly sped up here.
Again, trigger warning. What
That
we are
car
about.
entering right there, that's the assault team. And as I said, they go northbound around the north side. They avoid driving near this entourage, Mr. Jones and his friends. This Nissan Altima that's pulling up is part of the entourage that was with Mr. Jones. The driver, Tafa McCrae, is a friend of his. You will see his girlfriend get out. And they go inside of the lobby to use the restroom. So Tafa and his girlfriend, Aaliyah Albritton, they walk in to the lobby, and they're actually inside there in the bathroom when the shooting happens. Now, you probably didn't see it, but when Tafa got out of the driver's seat of that Nissan Altima, Camilla Bentley slid right in behind him. That's another friend of Mr. Jones and friends with these folks. She's sitting in that car at the time of the shooting. She takes her round through the arm. This car driving by, that is the spotter car. That is the surveillance and reconnaissance vehicle. This is just before the shooting happens. And you're going to see that car come right back by. It goes down, does a three-point U-turn, and comes back. And now we're mere seconds away from the attack on the Charger, on the attack on Mr. Jones. You'll see the Chevy Cruze go southbound on McKinley. Down to the lower left, you saw the shooter with the automatic Glock. That's him in the lower part of the photo. So you see in this video, Xavier Edwards desperately trying to get them out of harm's way. But what he didn't know was that up on the top of that screen between that, I think it's a Mercedes and that yellow car, was the third shooter. So what he ended up doing was driving and you'll see it come to fruition here, directly into a vortex of high-powered rifle fire. Now, what you're also going to find in the evidence, and you can see the electrical charging station up here in the upper right, this is the edge of a Tesla that's sitting at another Charger. That Tesla has its, I believe it's called Centurion function on, and it is recording from multiple cameras around the car. and this is one of the recordings, you'll see several in the evidence, that picks up the third shooter running down behind that row of cars and taking up position by that yellow car. He is the shooter on the other side of the street.
Young Gary says, I don't understand why they can show this in opening, present it as evidence during the state's case. Yeah, I agree. Opening statements 10, 15, 20 years ago was just a prosecutor. I mean, in a lot of cases, just a prosecutor, this is what we present to you. And then evidence comes in with the testifying officer or the testifying collector of evidence or something like that. Because what happens here is repetition. The jury sees it once. They're probably going to see this several times during the trial. And repetition, then it becomes ingrained in your memory. So then they need to associate it with the defendant. So yeah, but it's allowed in many states. I mean, I think all the states. And along with, I mean, stuff like this is normal. And I'm not saying it's good normal that you get a case law or precedent 20, 30 years ago, and then that limits the state's abilities because they went too far. And then slowly but steadily, they start to gnaw at those limits. The goalposts are moved. And then you end up with the prosecution, like here, allowed to show this during opening statements.
That forms that deadly vortex of fire as the charger goes by. And as the charger, you will see in the evidence, runs down the side trying to escape down the side of the hotel, this shooter comes running up to this position by the charging station and is opening up fire down the west side facing north of the home to suites.
That's a good point, young Gary. Also says, the videos are not even in evidence yet, and foundation authenticating them has not been established. He says, I'm usually pro-prosecution, but this is wrong in my opinion. I agree. Let's play with the thought that I don't think it will happen because it's cops testifying. But let's say the cops who is supposed to enter this into evidence and then for some odd reason say, that's not the video, or something of the sort. Let's continue. Good point, Jan.
That is the headlights of the Charger fleeing up the west side of the hotel, heading north. The third shooter. That's the Charger at the impound lot at the Tampa Police Department. You can see the impacts. Every one of those yellow stickers on the hood, the side, and the windshield are all impacts. That's the Altima that Camilla Bentley was sitting in. It took 2 rounds to the back window. This is Xavier Edwards, who was the driver of the Charger. That's him at the hospital. Gino Norris, Mr. Jones' friend, who was in the back seat. He was shot in the upper right arm. And Camilla Bentley, who was shot in the upper arm. These were the other partygoers. Armani Turner is Mr. Jones' girlfriend at the time. Miss Randolph, her friend. Robert Howard is an associate friend of Mr. Jones, who was in the car behind the Charger, which was a Hyundai. Tafa McCrae and Aaliyah were the ones in the Altima. You could see in that video that these gunmen acted with suddenness, they acted with speed and fury. And they brought overwhelming firepower. Not one shooter, not two shooters, but three to create that vortex that the evidence proves to you, with high-powered AR-style rifles and a fully automatic Glock 19, bringing all of that firepower to bear in a concentrated area easily, and rapidly, establishing not fire superiority, but fire supremacy, the evidence will show. Firing, as you saw in that last photo from the Tesla video, with absolute impunity and disregard of anyone that may be in that area. The majority of that fire you will find in this case was funneled directly into the passenger compartment of the Dodge Charger. And every single one of the rounds that were fired that night, every single one of them was dripping with the hatred, the malice, and the premeditated intent of all five of those conspirators. The evidence will prove to you. Mr. Jones attempted to evade the gunfire. He was leaning up against the dashboard. You may have seen in that photo, on those videos, but you'll see it during the trial. Look for it. His feet are up on the dashboard. He's leaning back. He's on his phone. The evidence will show trying to find a hotel, trying to find lodging for them. He barely has time to pull his feet down. The evidence will show he attempted to jump into the back seat, to go through and across the center console. Before he could do that, one of these rounds smashed into his chest, and that round tore through his heart, through his lungs, and through the largest vein in the body, the aorta, a gigantic artery that supplies blood up and down your body. And when he turned and kind of flipped over to try to crawl into the back seat, he took two more rounds to his back. Those rounds ripping through not only the muscles of his back, but into his liver. These shooters, as you've just seen, leveraged surprise. They leveraged it in this attack to make sure that Mr. Jones didn't stand a chance, to make sure he couldn't evade this attack. Not this time. This time he was going to be killed. They took full advantage of this ambush that they had planned. And you saw in that evidence the determination of these shooters, the assault team in this conspiracy. They didn't stop firing when the Charger went through that vortex. They kept firing all the way up the side of the hotel as the Dodge Charger fled. Almost a block away, that last shooter you saw in the Tesla video opening up fire, rapid fire. And as I said, firing with impunity. This was a perfect ambush spot because Mr. Jones' car was stuck. He couldn't go backwards because his girlfriend's Hyundai was behind him. To the left was a parked car next to the beams of the portico. On the other side was the hotel. A hotel. And on the other side of the wall in the glass of that hotel was high-density humanity. That didn't stop these killers. That didn't give them any pause for concern. You're going to see in the evidence impacts around that portico, numerous windows that are blown out in the front of that hotel. And not only in the lobby and in the front of the hotel, up and down the west side of that hotel, impacts. Impacts through windows that coursed through hotel rooms where people were sleeping, families. That hotel was packed with people. Parents there with their student children that were there for orientation at USF. People were there with their small children here in Tampa sightseeing. This overwhelming firepower and violence of action had an effect of confusion. Now, it wasn't confusing to the killers because they slipped away into the darkness. They were gone almost immediately. But it had that effect on the victims. Gino and Xavier. When that Charger finally comes to a halt, bullet riddled, they realize that Charles Jones is gone. And they also realize that they both have been impacted. They have both suffered gunshot wounds. They flee out of that Charger, and they flee immediately to the west into the Holiday Inn because now they don't know where these killers are. They don't know if they're there or not. So they flee and they run into the hotel. And you're going to see in the evidence, their flight leaves a thick blood trail and a very obvious blood trail. They run in, they get on an elevator, they go to the 3rd floor. When law enforcement respond, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that, the confusion that was caused, they go to the area where the Charger is. They see the blood trail. They don't know if that's victims. They don't know if that's shooters. They go into the hotel thinking that they're going to be coming face to face with shooters. They go up the elevator and they go onto the 3rd floor and they find Mr. Edwards and Mr. Norris laying on the ground bleeding. Camilla Bentley, you saw in the panic between her car, or the car she was driving, the Altima, and Miss Turner's Hyundai. One's backing up and one's going forward, and they collide going out onto McKinley. Camilla Bentley drives off, but then she turns around shortly thereafter and comes back and picks up Taifa and Aaliyah, who are inside of the hotel lobby. They then drive nearby to Advent Health, where Camilla is treated for her gunshot wound. Meanwhile, Armani Turner, the victim's girlfriend in the Hyundai, she ends up somehow on Fowler going eastbound and comes across a traffic stop being conducted by the University of South Florida Police Department, just a traffic stop. She pulls up and her and Mr. Howard get out and they make contact with the police, who are having a hard time understanding them because they were so frantic and so upset. So they follow them. They try to follow them. They actually lose sight of them because she's traveling so fast. Meanwhile, Tampa Police Department are responding to multiple 911 calls of shooting at the hotel. An officer responding sees Miss Turner driving. She drives through the intersection of Fowler and McKinley, goes right over the landscaping and into the parking lot. He follows her, not knowing who she is or what her part of this is, and they end up making contact with her. Officers end up driving down to the south end because it's brought to their attention that there are impacts and broken glass all over the south end of the home to suites where the shooting actually happened or began. And the first officer who gets there comes into the scene and he notices all of these 9mm pistol casings laying in the scene. And he's looking at the impacts and he's already seen the Charger. And he's wondering, where are the rifle casings? Where are they? Well, you're going to hear in this evidence there were no rifle casings, even though 2 rifles were firing at a high cyclical rate in this attack. They weren't there because these conspirators modified their rifles. They put what are called brass catchers on the rifles to catch the brass, the shell casings being ejected from these AR-style rifles. They modified them, just like they modified that Glock pistol and made it fully automatic. That was confusing. That was beguiling to law enforcement, at least in the beginning, until they started obtaining the video that you've just seen. So how does this conspiracy unfold? How does all of this start? It starts with Charles Jones, Julio Foolio, you see his name on the top of this post on IG, putting out on his IG account this advertisement for June 22nd, which was a Saturday. The murders happened in the early morning hours of the 23rd, going into Sunday morning. And you see Mr. Jones in the middle, advertising he's going to be appearing, Julio Foolio, at Teasers on North Nebraska in Tampa, hosted by Kenny Kay. And he puts at the bottom, my Airbnb pool party, June 21st. And that's when he arrived here. He and party goers arrived here that Friday. They had rented an Airbnb in Holiday in Pasco County. And they ended up on Saturday night leaving the Airbnb because he had started sending out, telling people, send me messages and I'll message you back with the address. And so many people appeared that eventually the owner of the Airbnb pulled the plug and told them to get out. But you see down here at the bottom, my official birthday party, June 22nd at Club Teasers, and gives the address. So he is making it very well known when he puts this promotion out, where he's going to be, what address he's going to be at, and when he's going to be there. This is another flyer that he put up. 8 p.m. to 3 a.m., June 22nd, at Teasers. He even puts a photograph here of Tampa. My Airbnb pool party. DM me for address. And my official birthday party at Club Teasers gives the address again. So he's advertising his whereabouts. He's advertising his whereabouts. Now, Miss Andrews, the defendant, sitting right over here at counsel's table, this is a message that she sends, and you see on the top there, oh, that's red. That is her Instagram account. You will find that. You can see on the top right, her registered email to that account, verified Alicia Andrews 72 at yahoo.com. She sends that this message on June 21st. That's Friday at 10:52 UTC. That's early morning the 22nd, or earlier that day, sorry. UTC, if you're not aware of that, is Universal Time Code. It's Greenwich Mean Time. So you got to back up 4 hours. So she's sending that on the Friday night. Hey, could I book a B&B in Tampa? This is 2 days before the murder. To a Kiera Axe Marie. Hey,
now
what's
finally talking about what
tomorrow,
Alicia did.
What day do you have available? How many bedrooms? Like 2. Logistics. This is the beginning. She's trying to find lodging. Trying to find lodging for this operation. Now, a few moments later, a screenshot of an Airbnb message is documented. The message is addressed to Rashad Murphy, confirms his reservation at Lagoon Oasis 9703 Gazebo Pond in Tampa, June 22nd to June 24. And in the message of that message there from the owner of the Airbnb, our HOA requires for security purposes that all guests booking with us provide a valid ID, which he obliges and sends his valid ID. Now we go to the 22nd This is the Saturday, earlier in the day, before Julio Foolio is going to start appearing at clubs in Tampa. This is the residence of Sean Gaithright, one of the conspirators. That is Mr. Gaithright walking out with a large duffel bag, and Isaiah Chance walking out with bags. And you'll see they start loading that black car, which is a Chevy Impala. That is the car that goes north in the hotel complex. That is the car transporting the assault team. And they load the bags into the trunk. That BMW on the top of the video there is being driven by Mr. Chance. And you see him bringing out another large bag.
Yeah, not legal advice. Never legal advice on this channel. But if you plan a crime, why are you at a place with cameras catching you?
They're kitting up and they're getting their gear into their transports. You'll see in the evidence that Mr. Chance ends up leaving in that Beamer. He drives and picks up his girlfriend, this defendant, Alicia Andrews, and brings her back to this residence. And then the three of them, Miss Andrews, Mr. Chance.
Okay, so I thought she was at that hotel where they loaded everything into the car, but they loaded everything into the car and then picked her up. So there's no real evidence she actually saw the guns.
Chance and Mr. Gaithright get into that Impala and they drive here to Tampa and they drive to the Airbnb, and there will be zero doubt about all of that, because that Impala, while it's en route, is being picked up on license plate readers. You will see in the evidence their cell phones are tracking, hitting cell towers as they travel in unison all the way down to I-75, coming across from Jacksonville and heading directly into Tampa.
Okay, so something's off here. John Gary, I mean, we have had our differences in the past, usually because I'm pro-defense and he is pro-prosecution. Here he actually is correcting me with a good defense argument. I'm just checking outside. No pigs are flying. But yeah, I agree. In fairness, there's no real evidence about what is in those bags at that moment.
When he comes back, Mr. Chance brings his contribution to the assault team. The Glock pistol with the extended magazine. He tucks it into his waistband. You can see the extended magazine sticking out in the trigger guard and the slide and the dust cover of the pistol. Just a more close-up photo of it. You can see it bulging out of the right side of his warm-up pants he's wearing. So these three, Chance, Gaithright, and the defendant, get in that Impala. And they drive. You'll find in the evidence that Gaithright in the middle and Chance, the defendant's boyfriend, are very tight. They were close friends. Mr. Chance calls Mr. Gaithright his little brother. And you'll see in the video when they are loading up, you'll see more video during this trial of Mr. Chance putting in the codes on the front door of the house that Mr. Gaithright lives at. Now, the second car, the one that I pointed out to you, the surveillance vehicle, this is a Chevy Cruze. This car is also picked up on license plate readers after law enforcement determined its involvement in this case. They go back and they find it. And if you can see in the lower left-hand corner, 7:46 p.m., June 22nd, it's on Bruce B. Downs at Tampa Palms, getting real close to where their Airbnb is. And by the way, the Airbnb they book is 1.3 miles from the murder scene. You will see in the evidence that the LPR, the license plate recognition systems that are picking up these two vehicles, show them traveling in unison, hitting on the same license plate readers at the same time, at the same locations as they travel from Jacksonville. That car was obtained by Rashad Murphy outside of the circle of ATK 1200. It was specifically located and utilized in this case as a car that would not be recognized. Now, this is the LPRs for that car, the Chevy Cruze. You can see it hitting where it hits Dolphin Drive. That's the day before in Jacksonville. On the 22nd at 6:01, Highway 441. At 1809 Highway 326, it's traveling through Gainesville. And then at 1947, 7:47 p.m., Bruce B. Downs, Tampa Palms Road, and then at 0342 Hillsborough, and then we get into the surveillance and the time before the murder. The ones at the bottom are the return. That's when they're returning to Jacksonville. This is showing you in these license plate readers, the Cruze on the top and the Impala on the bottom, hitting simultaneously on the same dates, 1809, 1947, 1945, 0341, 0342, at the same exact locations. These cars are traveling in unison.
As we said 45 minutes ago, all he had to say was, we can show with evidence how they traveled together from Jacksonville to Tampa. Boom. Why all of this? Yeah, this is getting information overload warning on this one. Because he only mentions Alicia in passing. So, and she's the first facing trial. There is actually nobody convicted of this crime. So why can he mention in opening statements, these are the shooters? It's not proven. They haven't had their trial. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Because they are part of a team. This is the Airbnb that they stayed at on the night of the 22nd, going into the morning of the 23rd. They didn't stay at a hotel that has a lobby with security cameras. They stayed at an Airbnb with one single Ring camera. Now, that's the front door on the right, or on the left, excuse me. You can see the Ring camera. You also can see that that lock has, like most Airbnbs, has a combination lock on it. That's the defendant when they arrive, and that day she's the only one seen going through that door. You're going to hear in the evidence when she walks in, this is from a video, someone inside saying, "My bad." So they're already inside, but she's the only one that goes through the door that day. The other ones, the evidence will show, this is back the back side of that same building, and down the back, and there's the back door. Must have entered, the evidence will show, through that entrance. Later that night at about 1:40, this is going now into June 23rd, 3 hours before the murder of Charles Jones, and less than an hour before they begin to hunt and stalk him at Teasers, where he's appearing. Her phone leaves the Airbnb and starts tracking by hitting off cell towers to a nearby McDonald's at 22nd and Fletcher, 2205 East Fletcher. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, if you've never seen these before, that's the cell tower. This is the area of the
cell towers
part of the
can only give you general directions.
And you can see there, Fletcher, Advent Health.
Well, the only thing I've heard so far was that she inquired about Airbnb. That's it. And she traveled with them. I kind of need a whole lot more of a connection than what has been presented here.
That is her in the passenger seat. And there's not going to be any doubt about that in this case, because when she's later interviewed by police, she identifies herself. Because you're not really going to be able to see her face, but she says, "Yeah, I'm in that car. That's me." You can see the driver, Davion Murphy, he's lighting a cigar. You can see a little flame. You're going to watch on this video as they proceed through this drive-through.
So they went to the drive-through. Where's her active participation in this? Where are her texts that says, "Hey, bring guns," or "Are we going to avenge?" or anything that says...
You just saw her turn to her left. She identifies Mr. Chance as being in the back seat of that car.
And at the beginning of this stream, we checked a 2-minute summary that where her defense lawyer says she has been extremely cooperative with the investigation, told them everything. And yeah, I need a whole lot more. I need to show us the actual connections. I don't give two shits on a straw about rap songs or colors or whatevers. This is a trial where you claim she is a co-conspirator, accessory to murder, moving up to first-degree murder, making her, charged with first-degree murder. And you barely mention her in this. Barely.
That's Davion Murphy in the driver's seat. They eventually drive off, but what you're going to find in the evidence is they buy a lot of food. This is not food for one person, it's a lot of food. And that's significant because later she tells the police that they went there because she was hungry and wanted something to eat. She also tells them she doesn't know who the driver is. Can't give an explanation for how he even came to be in that car or how she came to be in that car. Now, this is outside of teasers. As you saw, Teasers is a club that is on Nebraska here in the city of Tampa. So, as you saw in the evidence of the shooting, the success of this conspiracy, this plot to murder, this attack, hinged on the element of surprise. It absolutely hinged on that. And they leveraged the surprise that they had, catching Mr. Jones off guard. And to have that type of surprise, they had to act with a coordinated knowledge, and they needed intelligence. They needed intel. They needed real-time information. Where is he? what's his route. They needed to know exactly where he was. They needed to know his positioning, his routes of travel. And like any good operation, the key to success is intelligence, critical intel. Now, to obtain intelligence like that and to do so surreptitiously, secretly, the surveillance has to be done. In a surreptitious manner. Without that intelligence, without providing that real-time information to the assault team that's in the Impala, there would be no surprise, there would be no ambush of Mr. Jones, and this conspiracy would fail. It was that intelligence, that real-time surveillance and communication, the locations and routes that were provided by this defendant and her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, operating alone in that Chevy Cruze while the other three conspirators, the assault team, were in the Impala. And they were doing everything they could to keep that Impala out of the sight of Mr. Jones and his friends, because Mr. Gaithright drove that Impala. It was registered to his mother, but he drove it all the time. He was notoriously...
Okay, the guys are not clever people. They are around cameras all the time, in cars that are identifiable. Yeah, not clever people. But where's the connection to her? Except it was her boyfriend. Allegedly an abusive boyfriend.
Known for driving that car. This was a coordinated team effort. In order to remain secretive and to not alert the target that they were conducting surveillance, they utilized several different techniques. Number one, they parked away from the club, and they utilized disguises. That you heard some about yesterday in jury selection, about COVID masks. You're going to see in this video, June of 2024, they're both wearing COVID masks. Now, interestingly, because it was suggested yesterday that there's many reasons people could wear COVID masks, it's the only time in this evidence you will ever see a mask on this defendant's face. You won't see it on her face when she returns back to Jacksonville through an Uber. You won't see it on her face any other time when she's entering into the Airbnb around her 4 co-conspirators. But they kept their distance, and you'll see that in this video, from the victim and his entourage. They attempted to blend into the background. They needed to get close enough to be able to conduct surveillance, to gather the information they needed, but not so close that they would be detected. They had to avoid that. So first they used an unrecognizable car, and then they used disguises. But what you're going to find, and remember the law and principles, she doesn't even need to be there to be part of this conspiracy or to be a principal. She's there. She drives there with Mr. Chance, and they park in the north end of the park.
But you just said she's not the driver. She's in the car. What knowledge does she actually have? I need to know from you, Mr. Prosecutor. Show me she had actual knowledge. Where's the texts of her saying, yeah, let's screw this, blah, blah, blah. Where are her texts afterwards? Yay, we did good. I hope you have it. Because if you don't, Why are we here? She's guilty of being in a car.
Lot of teasers, and she doesn't stay in the car. She gets out and she walks with him. You're going to see that. You can kind of see their images in the upper right hand corner. This is a video. I'm going to play it in a minute. You're going to see him hand her phone to her and her put her code into the phone to open it so they could utilize it to convey what they were watching and seeing. And again, they're out in the parking lot. She was there with them in the field, shoulder to shoulder, in the thick of it, on the ground, in the action. So they're wearing these masks, and it's not just like some costume mask. Obviously, a COVID mask is not going to necessarily draw that much attention, but it is going to hide their identities. Mr. Chance has a hoodie up on his head, along with the COVID mask. They are clearly trying to disguise themselves. But again, she didn't stay in the car, she got out. And there was a reason for that. Because instead of allowing Mr. Chance to walk around in this dark parking lot with a hood on and a mask on by himself,
Objection, Your Honor. Argument.
walking.
Overruled, go ahead. Again, this is opening statement, members of the jury. It's just a chance for the lawyers to tell you what evidence they believe will be admitted in this case. But again, it is not the actual evidence, all right? Go ahead.
But instead of allowing him to walk around in that parking lot by himself, a single man with a disguise on, she went with him. Because now they would be a couple. They would fit in. They would be non-threatening. So she acted not only helping in conducting the reconnaissance.
Overruled, go ahead.
I'm with the
She
defense
acted as
here. This is
camouflage.
way.
She acted as a disguise in and of herself.
I mean, he abandoned the evidence will show after the first 10 minutes. The rest is pure speculation. Now, of course, what's been said here is not evidence. But then it should be presented as not evidence. I mean, it's as Dave says, it's opening statement, not an opening lecture. This is not good.
Now they're a couple. Now it's not just a single person who may be seen as threatening or may draw attention. This is just a couple walking around in the parking lot in a club where a lot of people are milling about in groups. In groups. She provided that by being there in the field with them. She provided that cover and that camouflage. And she provided, obviously, a second set of eyes to watch. Both of them surveilling and watching Mr. Jones and his entourage. And then, as I just mentioned a minute ago, she provided the comms, the communication, her phone. Now, you're going to see in the evidence, Mr. Chance's phone is tracking all the way to Tampa from Jacksonville. And it's tracking at that Airbnb. It's hitting off a nearby tower, but it's her phone they're utilizing, you will find in the evidence. Now, you're going to find in this evidence that they were not utilizing the calling function of that iPhone or even its Apple text message app, the two ways that most people communicate. They're using some kind of a special application to be able to communicate that's undetected. But at some point, they have to break radio silence because the person they're communicating with, Sean Gathright, is not answering. He's not picking up his phone, so they actually send a text through the Apple text message app. Pick up your phone. And that's right around this time, just a few minutes later.
wording here is kind of important. He said they say pick up your phone, not she texted him pick up your phone. So it's his phone, not her. And what is this mystery? Ow! Mr. Jingles boops with claws out. If you wonder why I make sudden things. Yeah, whose phone was the message sent from?
You see the defendant opening the phone for Mr. Chance, and you can see their COVID masks. One is wearing the blue COVID mask that was so prevalent in 2020, 2021, and she's wearing a black one.
Okay, so now they know they used some
This is
kind of
Mr.
app.
Jones and his friends arriving at that club. And you can see the time there, 2:22 in the morning. That, again, is several minutes off, but it's about that time. 2:21, and there they are, and you see Mr. Chance on the phone in the parking lot at the same place. Now later, after Mr. Jones has gone into the club and been in there and done his thing in there with his friends, he's now leaving. You can see Mr. Edwards' head up there. It's 2:46 or about that time. 2:46, 59, almost 2:47. And what happens at 2:47? This car up here in the upper right, that's on that road, which is Nebraska, is pulling in to the north end of the parking lot of Teasers. This was an extremely orchestrated, well-orchestrated conspiracy, coordinated. He's walking out of the club on the other side of the club, and out of the blue, the assault team vehicle is pulling into the club. That is tight surveillance and intel. Now, in this photograph, that's 2:48. This is Mr. Jones' Charger. You can see the lights starting to light up because they're already inside the car. They're getting ready to leave. That's the Impala that has come in on the north side, gone down the west side, and is now passing in the front. Out of necessity, passing in the front. So this is just an aerial view of Teasers. You can see Nebraska over here to the right. You can see this little road here, South Castle. The defendant and her boyfriend come and they park here in the north end. They get out, they walk around, they come around this way, they stand here. The entrance is over here. So they're way down here. You kind of saw that in that photograph, which would put them down there to the west. They conduct surveillance, they walk back up here, they get back into the car, and then they drive out onto East Castle. The assault team comes in the red arrows, comes in on the north end. We just watched it. They come down this way, and they go down Castle. And as you can see, before I move on, a lot of folks standing around out there. A lot of people. Potential witnesses. Now, from there, when Mr. Jones leaves with his friends in the three cars, they travel to another club, an after party. This is